Hey, this is Anthony Ha with TechCrunch, and I'm here in the new RocketSpace. The old location hosted startups such as Uber and Zappos and Spotify. So now we're going to talk to founder and CEO Duncan Logan about the company's growth and its future plans. Hey Duncan, so we're here in the new RocketSpace. So when did you guys actually move in?
We've been here 3 weeks after one of the longest weekends of my life.
So how is this space different from the space that you had before?
So our original space down at 181 Fremont was kind of classical brick and timber. Those buildings are becoming harder to find. We were actually based on 4 floors on top of each other. Here at 225 Bush, this is the accelerator space here, and we're all on one big floor, which is actually working really well. Mm-hmm. And then we have suites and Rocket Club in another building.
Right. So was that, a very conscious plan to say, okay, we want sort of 2 distinct spaces?
Not really. It was just the way real estate in San Francisco has become so competitive. We just had to kind of work out how we could get into more space as quickly as possible.
Right.
But
the result is, you're going to have basically twice as much space. Between the 2 locations, you're going to have twice as much space as the old one.
Yeah, both locations have expansion possibilities. So we're building out 180 Sansom at the moment, which we'll just keep on taking more floors there as they come available, and the same with this building as well, probably.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit more about some of the companies that have actually gone through RocketSpace and who's here now.
Yeah, I think it's a really strong part of our brand that we've been very fortunate that people like Uber and Zaarly and Podio, Snippet, Leap Motion, there's a number of companies. In 30 months, we've already had, I think, 3 or 4 companies who are valued over $1 billion that have come through here. Uber, obviously, with a very recent valuation over $3 billion, which is phenomenal. Companies in here, currently Supercell are doing some really interesting stuff in the gaming space. Beatport is another one of the music companies. We've had Spotify, Beatport, and Mog, kind of 3 big music companies in here. So there's definitely this kind of quality attracts quality, and we've been very fortunate with that.
So do you think that the fact that you guys are growing, is that a reflection? How much of that is a reflection of that the RocketSpace itself is an idea that's catching on, and to what extent is it just a reflection of the broader kind of startup landscape in San Francisco?
I think it's both. I think this office as a service concept has certainly, in the 30 months that we've been going, has absolutely taken off. Mm-hmm. We see that all around us, and at the same time, the kind of value proposition of RocketSpace, I thought, has also expanded greatly. We see up to 30 applications a week to come to RocketSpace, so there's clearly a big demand from tech companies that want to be here.
Can you talk a little bit more? What do you think about is office as a service that makes it different from just being a regular real estate company?
So I think for us, the office part is the platform. I think there are companies out there doing a great job of providing office space on a flexible basis. I think where RocketSpace really starts to differentiate is what we provide in addition to the real estate component. So we have our corporate innovation program, which is working with all the corporates who are interacting with the startups. We have Rocket U, which is our education and training and placement program, and then we have the accelerator itself, which is all about trying to help the startups in here grow faster.
Right. So, but at the same time, fundamentally, as a business, from a business perspective, you guys are essentially a real estate company in the sense of this is what, that's where you're making your money, is on the rents for the desks.
At the moment, desk rent is probably still the largest number, but it's becoming a smaller and smaller percentage every month as we ramp up the other services. It was always our intention. We're a bootstrap company ourselves, so we knew we had to get into making money pretty quickly.
Right.
In order to give ourselves the flexibility to do the things we wanted. But it's always our intention that gradually the rental revenue will decrease as a percentage and the other service revenue will grow. Mm-hmm.
Why is it important to have that kind of mix? Is that just to have the mix, or?
I think partly is for the survival of the firm. Real estate comes in cycles, and we're not going to be any different to that. And partly because the passion of what our business, if we were just about the real estate, we would be rolling out RocketSpace's everywhere.
Right.
And while we do intend to expand to other locations, it's really about building a brand which is really focused on the best startups. We think you, as a young company, you are a product of your environment, and you should choose that environment really carefully and surround yourself very carefully with who you surround yourself. And that's more of our focus than just filling real estate.
So you said you're interested in looking at some other markets. What's next? New York or?
I think we kind of study about 50 different cities all around the world. I think within the US, New York's a definite interesting one. I think Austin's really interesting. Believe it or not, Vegas, I think with what Tony's doing down there, Tony Hsieh, is becoming very interesting. I even think Detroit could be really interesting to see how it comes out of bankruptcy. So we look at all the obvious technology clusters and then a few outliers as well.
And so can you talk at all about what timeline you're looking at for?
I would certainly like to be signing leases in a second US city this year.
Okay.
For opening Q1, Q2 next year. I think actually the next two most logical spaces for us was probably going to be London and possibly even Toronto.
Oh, okay.
But we kind of monitor what the tech scene is in a lot of different cities.
Right. So, I think the last thing I wanted to ask was just going back to this idea of sort of office as a service. To what extent do you think that's something that, when you look at the broader landscape, that you think other sort of companies are doing, and to what extent do you feel like that's still kind of unique to RocketSpace?
I think our uniqueness obviously there's a big co-working environment that started around the same time as us, and I think our uniqueness is really just the passion and the things that we do specifically for tech. A really simple example is we have a 3 gigabit connection into this building. There's not a co-working, it's a very expensive connection. The co-working spaces just wouldn't justify that because they're not so passionate and focused on tech. And all the other things which we do, which some generate money and a lot of them don't, are all just, again, for that passion around tech. And I don't see that in many of the other facilities out there.
Great. Well, thanks for having us.
Oh, great. Good to see you.